Tonight on Cosmic Cantina, we're back for an all-new season, and on this episode, we're poking some portals. So how does one go about opening these gateways to other worlds? Positive or negative energy? What's best? We interviewed Josh's bro Ryan, and he discusses his recent dabblings into the weird world of ritual, with his attempt to open a portal and the consequences therein. Scientists opening portals to the Mirrorverse, the lowdown on Skinwalkers, and Aleister Crowley's ritual summonings. Is this practice just something we should all just keep well away from? Find out on an all-new Cosmic Cantina. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and every week I go to my favorite bar, Cosmic Cantina, and kick back with my co-hosts, Josh Golombeski and Matt O'Connor. We talk about aliens, Bigfoot, ghosts, ancient cultures, and anything from the unseen world that needs a little illumination. Welcome to Cosmic Cantina. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and tonight I am on the mend from 26 days of enjoying too much wine and cocktails in the East Coast. So I'm drinking kombucha again.
Under the beach. I get it.
Nice. I'm topping off a vacation. I've been drinking for 6 days in a row, and I definitely need to stop. But, one more night. I'm back on the ghost fish. She's sweet. She's nice to me. She calls my name. It's a little abusive of a relationship, but it's fine for now. It fits me. Cheers out there. If you notice, my accent's back because I've been in New England, so I'm losing my R's a little bit here.
East Coast.
Right on.
How about you, O'Connor?
Listen, I got a Mexican-style dark lager from Upslope.
Ooh, nice.
The dark lagers. It's what I had in the fridge. It's good.
It's getting done.
I'm happy.
Getting it done. All right.
Yeah, totally. So tonight we've been talking about a lot of alien stuff. And of course we want to add aliens back into the show, but we want to kind of touch back into the paranormal just a little bit. And we want to talk about rituals to open portals. And that although there's some darker versions of that, and there's all sorts of magical stuff and witchy stuff, there's also the idea of CERN, right? And there's the idea of governments trying to open portals for parallel universes and all sorts of weird stuff. So, and we have an exclusive interview with Josh's brother.
Oh boy. RBG.
Might be the most controversial interview we've done.
It sure is, but it was a lot of fun. All right, Josh, what do you got?
Well, the interview got me thinking about some other stuff, and we went deep on Skinwalkers. There was this new post online that I found in Reddit that kind of blew my mind. I usually don't take from Reddit, but it's a really authentic, amazing 3-part breakdown of Skinwalkers from a ranch, from a guy who's inside knowledge at a Navajo ranch near the Four Corners, and it's actually really cool, and I can't wait to share it.
Cool.
What about you, O'Connor?
Right on. I tried to. We've touched on this a few different times in a few different ways. This kind of tapping into portals thing, and I wanted to go back to some of the original, the OG portal opener, by a man by the name of Aleister Crowley.
Sex magic.
Yeah, a little sex magic. So I wanted to find out about the sex magics.
Tuesday nights in the Golombeski house.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Okay, I don't want any
Is your
details.
wife listening to this?
Bada boom, bada bing. No.
Abracadabra, take your clothes off. Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Yes. Very tame.
It's really more of a role play thing, yeah. Anyway, specifically, we've touched on this before, but I wanted to sort of get a good grasp on how it all came about and his contact with the entity Lam.
Yep.
We've talked about it before, but I wanted to dive in a little further and see where that took me in an interesting places it took me. So that's where.
All right.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get started. So I know that I've been kind of neglecting my input besides my interview, and I haven't been adding some nerdy article. And maybe you didn't miss it. Maybe you don't want to hear my nerdy articles, but I really wanted to preface this amazing interview with Josh's brother with some smarty pants article.
Here you go. Let's do it.
Why not? So, like I said before, I mean, there's a lot of people that talk about CERN. There's a concern that CERN is opening these portals and demons are coming through. They're not necessarily concerned with CERN.
Sorry, I had to.
It's okay. It's not that they're doing rituals, but there's this idea that they're opening this doorway. The Navajo believe that the idea of portals is just an energy point where good and evil energies come from. And I know that Josh is going to touch on Skinwalker Ranch, but that's where the idea of Skinwalker comes from, is the Navajo tribe. So just something to think about. So a lot of scientists are always talking about portals because they're trying to figure out how the universe works. So I found this article in The Independent. It says, scientists attempting to open portals to a parallel universe. Does a mysterious mirror world lurk in the shadows of perceived reality? It could explain a lot. So scientists at Oak Ridge National Laboratory in eastern Tennessee are hoping to get a glimpse of a parallel universe that they feel is mirroring our current life. So identically. So mirroring particles, mirroring planets, possibly even mirroring any kind of life. And the reason that they think this is that there was a test that was done in the 1990s where particle physicists were measuring the time it took for a neutron particle to break down into protons once they were removed from an atom's nucleus. The neutrons broke down at different rates instead of decaying and becoming protons at the same time. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but this doesn't explain how it's as if there has to be some other world that it's interacting with for this to happen. So they want to find proof of it. So they think by opening a portal and trying to figure out if there's a mirror universe, then they could explain this test that they did with the neutrons.
Well, hold on.
Okay, wait.
My brain hurts. No, like
right.
I've never heard of a mirror universe before. I don't like that. Like I like multiverse. That sounds fun. Like there's other versions of humans and animals and weird shit. But like me in another place, like that just like I don't know. That's kind of a little unnerving. It's like that movie Another Earth. I'm not sure I like this, but go on.
Well,
Is it just that you don't like the idea of another version of you getting around somewhere?
Aw, Josh, you're such a Leo. You're such a Leo.
There only needs to be one of me. I killed my other self just to prove dominance. No, please. We get along. We'd high five. We'd be buddies. You know we would. It'd be fine.
A
lot of chest bumping.
It'd be really funny.
It would be really competitive.
You like ghost fish? So do I. Oh my God. It would be too much.
Nice.
Okay, well, the reason I found this article and I brought it up because when I do the interview with Josh's brother, we talk about that they open a portal. And one of the things that there's something that happens, and you'll see in the interview that was really interesting. But the thing is that what I thought about was we don't really know what's on the other side of the portal. There's just people opening ritual-wise. They're opening these portals, or they're doing it with scientific studies or CERN and that kind of thing. And nobody really knows what they're interacting with. But maybe it's this mirror universe. So it's people just like the people that are doing the ritual on the other side.
Oh, that's weird. Oh,
right.
That's weird.
So I have to tell you that because when you listen to the interview with Josh's brother, this will make more sense. So one more thing about this study. So they, if they find an existence of a mirror world, this could explain our universe's lack of isotope lithium-7, which physicists believe doesn't match the quantities the Big Bang would have created in the universe. We do not have it, but they're saying that we should. And they're saying if there's a mirror universe through another dimension, through a portal, that would make sense where it went. Also, the detection of high-energy cosmic rays, which come from beyond our galaxy, could also be explained by the existence of a mirror world.
I wonder if that's where my left ear pod went. I can't find that fucking thing.
Yeah,
it's gone.
Your mirror self took it because there was a lack of them in that world.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump into Josh's brother. Okay, so I had an awesome interview with him. Sort of inappropriate, but Josh, tell Tell us about
Speaking
your
of
brother.
Josh's double,
Exactly.
Oh, like I like to dip my toe over the line of what's appropriate. My brother will stick his whole leg in there. He doesn't care. He's a character. So Ryan and I obviously grew up together because we're brothers. But he worked on Finding Bigfoot for many years. One of his roles was a producer. He ended up being on a version of the show as a part of a supernatural Bigfoot hunting team. And he just recently hosted a Bigfoot conference down in Florida. So he's big in the, he's a growing legend in the Bigfoot world. Just bought a property down in Florida. He's full squatch all the time. I love it. So he's a wild and interesting guy. So also he's coming out with a doc soon based off this ancient ritual they performed to try to attract all sorts of things, and it's super edgy and super fascinating. He's doing it with Outcast Paranormal, who are an awesome group who are pushing the limits on paranormal research.
right on.
All right, so here's the interview. Check it out. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me. I love this, and I am not biased at all.
I just love that you and I have some alone time without Josh. Because
Yeah.
is he's gonna rip it apart and he's gonna be your brother after this. But you and I get a moment, and what we're gonna talk about is being able to touch that other side. Being able to understand what might be, ghosts, Bigfoot. What is that? What is that thing that we can't see? That thing that we keep obsessing over. And you are known for being on mainstream Bigfoot shows for hunting Bigfoot, but you got a bunch of group of people together and you want to test this unknown. You wanted to go out and kind of poke that portal, open that portal and see what would come through and kind of document it and do research. And not necessarily Bigfoot, but just what everybody thinks it's demons. Everybody thinks it's negative, but you really got in touch with something. So what happened?
Yeah, so we had the unique opportunity to go to David Eckhart's Portal House, or at least that's what we're calling it. This guy has, since he was a young kid, had been plagued with visitors, and visitors that will open portals in his room, take his children, put them on his bed, go, does that bother you? And him having to play it cool, going, no, I trust you. And then they lift them all up and carry them through the portal to perform surgeries and all manner of atrocities on them that they don't remember. So this is the place we're going, right? So we team up with this shaman who's also a voodoo priest, rabbi and everything. And he's saying it's demons. Like, no, this house, he's riddled with demons. So now you got David saying it's actually reptilian doctors. And if people knew that they were farming the earth, it would just be catastrophic. And the other guy says it's demons. And you're driving in, and with my new philosophy, which is everything you've ever been taught is a lie, but I can't get the demon out of my head because I was brought up Catholic. So I'm just like, oh God, I'm going to a demon house to open a portal so that I can face these things.
The guilt is high. The guilt is high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and the point of this adventure was to get somebody abducted, or possessed or whatever, anything that takes you to the other side or feels the power of the other side. Mm-hmm. And we took this young lady, Olivia Vitale. She's just, when you meet the next generation and you can just tell they're the future, and you just ride a wave with them as long as you can.
How so? Like, what did you pick up on her that you felt that she was special?
Okay, this is the only way to describe it. Maybe there's a better way, but it's almost like a suicidal gene where I'm down to experiment with anything. And if you want shocking, like, this is how I know she's badass. And it's the truth. When we were in the car, like, I tested her. I go, hey, you want to be a Bigfooter? Like, you want to know you have the best chance of having an experience, and when you should go into the woods. And I apologize if this is a little too risque. And she goes, when? I go, when you are having your period. Because there are all these stories saying that you are more capable of attracting nature, not just squatches, and you'll have more experiences, which happen to us on the road all the time of finding Bigfoot. So it's interesting. And I told her that, and I was like, oh, there he goes. There's the lawsuit. Oh, I went too far. I should have held that until the second time we hung out, right? On the way home from this portal house.
Yeah, maybe.
Where this poor lady might have got abducted. She goes, you know what? I want to try that experiment in the woods. And boom, that's it. Her dad was a paranormal reporter in Los Angeles. It's in her blood. She is fearless. She is powerful, and she's the next generation. And that's just it. But anyway, so we take her to this house.
Wait, let me get this straight. So she was like, let's do an experiment when I have my period?
No. she just said that, like, I would like to do that someday in the woods looking for Bigfoot. And when she said that, when she was open to that experiment, which is radical, I'm gonna go into the woods when I'm having my period. I'm gonna actually take my tampon, hang it in a tree so that can be a natural scent for the Bigfoot. Like that. I know it sounds crazy. I know, but those are the experiments my new group wants to do. Anything that's taboo, anything that people are like, no. That's where the science has to start, is out there. We can't let all these fears and these stories block us from going to the actual edge and going, okay, what happens when you do this? Anyway, long story short, we go into this portal house, right?
So it's you and the girl, and who else?
There's a team of us. Outcast Paranormal. There's a group. It's, we are Legion, right? There's a whole bunch of us. But she slept in the house.
Like 6, 7.
Like about 10 of us on this particular adventure.
Okay. All right. So you're in the house.
Yeah. And we're sleeping, and she's sleeping in one room. I'm out on the couch, and it's just a normal night. We all go to bed thinking, oh God, it's going to be crazy. We tried all sorts of crazy things, including DMT. And she goes to bed, wakes up the next day, no big deal, goes home. Now that next day, somebody online hits up David Eckhart, and says that poor girl is going to get abducted. Something's going to happen to her. And it came out of the blue. And then he hit her up again and said, if she hasn't already been taken, she's going to get taken. And she woke up that morning with bruise marks all over, like, her legs and stuff, where she had done nothing. She hadn't gone out. She had, no crazy wild night. And she had this really weird feeling that something was wrong, like something had happened to her. And she had weird dreams and all this stuff. So high strangeness, whatever you want. But then that guy, she gets in touch with that guy, and he goes, and she sent him a picture of her room. And he goes, oh my God, that's the bedroom.
Wait, hold on. So back it up. So this random guy, this is really weird, freaky. Psycho. But so so this random guy is like, you're going to get abducted. And then he says, oh my God, that's your bedroom. I mean, was it him?
Well, I mean, I hope not. That gets real creepy. No,
how is this guy connected with the paranormal on the other side?
He reached out just out of the blue online to David saying, this girl needs to be careful. Something's going to happen to her. I'm having premonitions. She's going to be abducted or taken. And then, people write in interesting things all the time on the web. So you just dismiss it. But he came back again and said, no, this won't leave me alone, whatever that gift is that he has, right? And he's like, I need to tell you this to tell her. And then that's when she went, something happened to me, and this is really weird. And she had pictures of the bruising and everything. Mm-hmm. And then when she said, do you remember your dream? He's like, oh, very vividly. It was like lucid dreaming. She goes, here's some pictures of what my room, does any of this look right? And then that's when he lost his shit and was like, I've seen that room. I've seen that picture on the wall. I've seen things. So unless they're both fibbing.
So all 10 of you were there in this house at night. You did some kind of ritual. You did some kind of seance. Like what was it?
Oh yeah. It's awesome.
You're provoking something, right? You're provoking something. So how did you provoke this something? Because here's the thing. We talk about this on the podcast a lot. I know, because you're always listening, because we always do a shout out to you, or your brother does. That we're either talking about, is it ghosts or paranormal, or is it aliens? But then there's also the consensus that maybe all of that is the same thing. And we're trying to come up with these things that one is, it's paranormal or aliens. So
that's
what you're doing to promote or poke whatever was you're trying to get in touch with.
So we tried to poke in all directions, spiritually, technologically, and then simply by holding the space in a place that something may or may not want you there. So we did an actual power summoning ritual, which is supposed to draw all the spirits of not just the building, but the land. This is what Ken, the priest, was able to do, which actually ended, which was really gnarly, because you're doing these things, and what are we really doing? These are like rites of passage for adults. Like, we're pushing ourselves where we're scared beyond to see what happens. And Stacy, the guy I partnered up with, Stacy Brown, he is a badass man. He had to actually take a knife at the end and bloodlet onto the sacred parchment over the prayer. It was so gnarly. I get mad props, man. Mad props. That's like, there's certain things I'll do that they're like, whoa, and that I just won't touch that. But anyway, he bled onto that, and then that, like, they come to, they feed on the blood. The blood is life. So they got so that was the first way, and that was supposed to piss them all off. And then we set off Patrick Jackson's. I didn't have this new model at the time, but we set off the one that I actually hand built of his. So now technologically, if it's spheres, we're pissing them off. If it's, if it's demons, then it's one thing. And by simply being in the house and trying to reach out, we're pissing off the reptilian doctors that are opening the portals in the house. So we didn't know what. So we just shotgun, bam, 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 just shooting it into this house to see what would happen.
The different things that everyone talks about doing.
Yeah, because we just wanted action.
Ritual, some kind of seance, and then technology. And for people listening, we do talk about Patrick Jackson's work a lot. He's in the UK. He's a reverse engineer. He's created a device that is a code that he's able to attract orbs, which we don't know are alien or paranormal. He thinks that they're all an AI system, a very old AI system. But that's what you got your hands on. And not a lot of people have their hands on that machine. So that's pretty awesome. So you did all these things. You did all these things. And then what happened? I mean, I know that this happened to this girl, but then what happened after you did all these things? Nothing. It was just kind of like, oh, that was cool. And then you went to bed.
We did all these things, went to bed expecting all the fireworks, everything we've brought up seeing in movies, and nothing. It just very mellow. And then we went home, and the big thing was that high strangeness on the interaction on the internet with Olivia, and then Olivia apparently being abducted in some manner or something, at least dreaming really powerfully about it. I don't know.
So she had dreams about something abducting her. Did she tell you what was in her dream? Was it an alien? Was it reptilian? Was it
no nondescript? She no detail like that, just intense fear and loss of control, like really feeling powerless, almost like sleep, we assume maybe sleep paralysis or something hitting her like that, but normally she doesn't have a problem with that, with sleep. So we don't know, but very interesting. And once again, high strangeness all damn day. And the more you do this, the more that starts to creep around you and exist around you. I don't know. Do you notice that?
So what's your thought process on this random person who just knew by watching her on YouTube or being in touch with you? Because you do have a YouTube channel, right? Where you post some of this stuff that you're doing so that people can comment, right?
Outcast Paranormal.
Outcast Paranormal. So what's your feeling on this person? I mean, like on a third dimensional level, this is just super creepy. But
is it creepy? I think we're all connected. I think
I do think we're all connected, but what's your feeling on what this guy picked up on and he knew exactly what was happening with her? Like, what's your feeling on that?
I think one of our goals is to create a culture of outcasts, of people that have maybe rogue ideas, and we hope to try them eventually, because who knows what's going to work to get the answers we want, right? And once you get that, you have all these people whose intention, they're focused on what we're doing. And for people who are sensitive, in my opinion, they begin to feel, and then messages start to come through. Where do they come from? I don't know, but they start to come through. My aunt has this gift, she sometimes has to call people and say, I'm sorry, I know, but you better look under the floorboard in the bedroom. There's $20,000 in rare coins, like that stuff happens. It's a real gift with some people. And I think that guy had that gift. And I think because he's part of our culture, he felt safe enough and obliged, to help out. And I love it. I think that's wonderful. The more of us working on this, the better, and the faster we'll get there.
So Simple. Is she okay? What happened?
Yeah, it was weird. She had the bruising. She had that uneasiness. It kind of freaked her out once it was connected online. And then, like all of these things, which you notice, it just settles back into normal, and we're back in the main.
Some kind of clearing or cleansing, or she doesn't want something like that connected to her. And then,
we did a ritual. We did a ritual in the beginning. I'm sorry, I should mention before we even got in the house, he did a ritual to protect all of us, to just to make sure we didn't leave with attachments. I've got kids, she doesn't want to take that home to her mom. So we did do that. And as far as I know, no, but we've been having all these weird things happening here at the new place. So I don't know if it's setting off the experimental tech. I don't know if it's the intention. I don't know if it's the adventures that I'm going on and bringing home, but nothing bad, nothing. I'm not calling the Ghostbusters, I'm not calling Cosmic Cantina. You guys got to get here, it's going live.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just bring guns filled with beer. Kittle beer.
Yeah, beer and bales of weed. It'd be fine.
Yeah, it would be fun. So, I mean, in my opinion, when I hear the story, it kind of freaks me out, only because we want to be in touch with something from the other side, but we don't want to feel like we're being taken advantage of, especially for this woman. So she was open enough to be that kind of that guinea pig. So do you feel like you got your answers that you were looking for? I mean, obviously you've been in touch with things from the other side, but like, what did this prove for you?
Did it prove anything? No, there's no concrete evidence that we got out of this. And it's like all the other stories that we really have. You know, you take everyone, it's always a blurry photo of the Squatch. It's always, that was weird, but was it really weird? So no, nothing. And so we just have to keep going into that beyond until we do run into something, and then just hope to God we have the right team, the right technology, or just the right open-mindedness to understand when we're there. You know, we're all amateurs. We're amateur scientists knocking in the woods and trying to do things just because, you know, it's fun. It's a good way to spend your time. Keeps you out of trouble. And what if we find something? How cool is that?
Trouble.
Yeah, well, yeah. See, but I honestly, the standpoint I am right now, it's all bullshit. And if there is something out there, it'd be really rare for you to run into something truly dangerous. So we'll see. You know, the most dangerous thing is the human animal. So
I think you know, you touched on something really interesting. I think the point of pushing your boundaries of fear is so that you can conquer them, because the more that you're in that place, you can figure out how to be less fearful. And if you're less fearful, something can't attach itself to you. And that's the power humans keep forgetting that they have. So maybe what you're doing is you're one of those, you know, those rogue, as you called it, outcasts that are out there pushing the boundaries of humanity.
Yeah. And I'm so glad
in a very weird way. It's probably not how most people spend their time.
Yeah, it's super bizarro. But imagine if I can make all the monsters in the night go away if you want them to. That's a gift, and maybe that's my weird gift for the world, but it's an honor. And that what you just said about fear, I just have to comment. One theme that kept coming up is conquering fear. And if you want my advice, or not my advice, but my opinion after doing all these experiments thus far, the key to the other side, the key to interaction with Sasquatch or any of this stuff is to completely stand beyond fear. I think fear is the wall between us, and when you're truly ready, it will come to you. But I'm not there yet. You know, I'm fighting for it.
That's amazing. And we all are. So
we all are.
All right. So I'm interested to see more experiments. And I know that when I get out of this interview, we're going to talk about some other weird stuff, and your brother's going to laugh about you.
Tampons and trees. I mean, come on. And you kept a straight face. You're amazing, by the way. You're badass too. I appreciate it.
I will take all the compliments in the world. Keep them coming.
Oh, you're like me too, huh? Oh, great. You're not an Aries, are you?
No, I'm a Sag though.
Fire. Oh, you're Sag. Oh, you're Sag. That's my girl's a Sag. Oh, Sages are the best. They're the best. Besides Aries, but they're best. Yeah,
Besides Aries. All right.
Yeah, let's be real. Let's be honest.
All right. So I gotta let you go because we're gonna dive into some really cool stuff. But you were awesome. I'm so happy I got to meet you in person. Well, on a Zoom, and keep up the weirdness, and we'll keep reporting on it.
Melissa, you're the best. Thank you. It was an honor.
So according to Josh's brother, I'm not quite as cool as an Aries because I'm a Sag, but I feel like he really thought I was cool enough, but I'm just not there yet.
That's a shame.
God. Only
So
my
close.
big bro.
So close.
Jesus.
So close. It was kind of weird though. Like if you think about it, like what he was talking about, like what if what they were opening was this mirror world that they were dealing with themselves, but their selves on the other side was like a darker version of them. Like this idea that when you open this portal, there was like a mirror world that's interacting with you. I don't know. Just a crazy thought.
Or maybe you're the darker version of them. Maybe you're the asshole. Or I'm the asshole. You know?
Maybe.
Oh, that's interesting. Like a darker version. So it's not a mirror world with a replica of you. It's like the dark version of you, or
it's
a
like
different
Bizarro Superman. Yeah.
essence of you. That is a little. No, that's interesting. I don't know if they think that, but yeah, that's really. It actually makes me think about what I'm going to talk about next, but I'll get to it in a second. You guys have any more thoughts about some of the things my brother said in that interview?
Well, I mean, we could go on and on about
There were so many things.
Tampons and all sorts of stuff. I actually never thought we'd be talking
Yeah.
about bloody tampons like all together, but this is very interesting. This is very interesting. You know, I just never thought that would be part of my life, but that's cool.
That was a Goal and Besky interview if ever I heard one, for sure. I just like, these guys are so ballsy. When he was talking about the guy who like did the bloodletting during the ritual,
Oof,
that dripped onto the parchment and stuff, I was like, oh, these guys aren't fucking around. Like, this is some serious shit. And I'm glad that they got some sort of spiritual protection or whatever beforehand, and that seemed like the right thing to do. But yeah, like it'd be interesting to hear if he said that there was paranormal
It's like they threw
activity or
salt over their
something
shoulder. Like,
yeah.
yeah, they're like, all right,
Yeah.
we're covered.
Yeah, I don't know what else he's supposed to do. Kick a black cat up the ass or something. But it's just like he was talking about like there was some sort of paranormal stuff that may have been happening around the house, but he said it wasn't anything bad. But I was like, oh man, I don't know if I could. I don't know. That would freak me out too much.
No,
he did
it
have
totally
like a
freaked me
weird
out.
Sasquatch sighting on his property recently too, like a legit one. I wonder if it's all related. I don't know, man.
Oh, cool.
What I think's happening, though, all that shit is crazy, and I think it's just the beginning. He was really honest about like not much after the fact, and which I thought was good. That he didn't try to amp it up. But this is just the beginning of something. If they keep doing that, they're going to track something at some point. They better be ready because it's not going to be a Mr. Nice alien. It's not going to be a Spielberg alien.
Yeah, but
It's gonna be
whatever
something
happened to
dark.
that girl was not nice. Like I was just like, whoa. I mean,
That's true. It's already
bruises or
begun.
something? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, she was like covered in bruises, like something happened to her,
Yeah.
and then she remembers somehow getting. I mean, that is not good.
It's a little dark.
Yeah.
It's a little upsetting. Yeah.
Well, she met the dark version of herself in the mirror world, so that's what's going to happen.
Her dark version was die.
Die, bitch! I'll fucking bruise your thighs, bitch!
Yeah.
That shit is intense.
I wonder what mine's like. Must be really like nice and rosy and super sweet.
Oh, is this the dark version?
This is the dark version.
Are we? Is this the dark realm? We don't know. The other version of me could be super gregarious. We don't know. Could have a giant Johnson. Fuck that guy. I hate him. Come after my wife.
Fucking
I won't let it happen.
Big dick
I'll beat that.
bastard. Yeah.
Probably has a lot of hair. Perfect looking Johnson. Just like the right ratio of helmet to shaft. But all right.
Oh my God. Okay. What are you talking about tonight besides your Johnson?
I went too far. I'm going to cut that out.
So, Skinwalkers, you said. Sorry?
I'm riffing here. Running down a note. Penis joke. Cut out.
No, we're keeping it. We're keeping the penis joke. It's so
My
good.
brother's fault. He moved the line on me. Like I have a line in my life, and he like moved it just like 5 yards for me, and I'm like, fuck.
RBG started everything. Yeah.
Oh, so this is
fault.
competition.
It is. It's always.
I
you ain't
really
more
don't want
aggressive.
I don't want you to open a portal and meet your mirror self, because if this is what it's like on this world and this time period, I don't even want to know what happens.
that dude.
But I do want to know what's happening at Skinwalker Ranch.
No, it's not Skinwalker Ranch, but it's Skinwalkers.
Ooh.
Apparently, from this guy, what I'm about to break down, thinks Skinwalker Ranch is a bunch of horsewash bullshit. He says that in here. But one thing my brother talks about, which is really cool, on Finding Bigfoot, he visited a lot of Native American reservations. And I think he was in the Navajo one, too, for sure. And what he talked about was how once you get to know them at all, it doesn't take, for Ryan, he met a lot of these people, and they didn't tell him shit, but every once in a while, he'd make a good friend. And once they trusted him, they would talk about other things. They would talk about things they wouldn't tell the white man or tell anyone outside of the reservation or the tribe. And Ryan would learn about little people or skinwalkers or all these other different things. And I just recently, like a month ago, this posting on Reddit, and usually I don't really talk about Reddit on the podcast unless it's really good or really interesting. And this one struck me. It was about skinwalkers, and it was this really interesting story. So let me break it down. It kind of like really tells you what skinwalkers are, how they come through portals, the whole thing. And it was just really compelling. So let me break it down. Okay. So this is a story about a guy named Sam, we're going to call him, who met a friend in Chicago, and basically recounted this to him. A lot of it's through text message. So this is a really authentic like recalling of this story with a lot of text message kind of like DMs in it. And then the guy summarizes it. So I know it's like third person, but it's still super cool and interesting. I just was like, this lines up with what my brother was telling me and what I've heard before. So this takes place in a Navajo reservation in the Four Corners about 10, 20 years ago. And it's this guy who's a full-blooded Navajo who lived in Chicago and grew up kind of like a white suburban lifestyle. He moved back to learn more about the tribe and to immerse with his people. He met a girl named Jess. We're calling her Jess. These are all obviously not their names, who he ended up falling in love with, eventually marrying. And she had an uncle named John, we're going to call him, even though it wasn't John, it was obviously a Navajo name. And John was a medicine man, an older medicine man. And Sam used to go over there all the time and help this guy out because he was just old and needed help around the yard. And Sam would be like, all right, I'm not going to charge you or anything, but you're going to tell me some really cool stuff about the Navajo tribe. And of course, Sam pressed him a lot about Skinwalkers because he thought it was interesting and cool. He wasn't really part of the tribe yet, so he was probably overstepping a line, and his girlfriend gave him a lot of shit. So at first, John's like, all right, I'll tell you some things. First of all, it's all just not what you think. It's not supernatural. Basically what happened was when the settlers arrived, we wanted to scare them off. So the medicine men would dress up in animal skins, and they got really good at hallucinogenics and other things, and they would go mess with the coloners to scare them away. And this practice kind of developed and went over a period of time, and now they just use it against whoever. And these medicine men around town are just hired out to kind of go scare people here and there. And like, for example, there was a property line case where a guy was like really unreasonable about his property, and he was being kind of a drunk, crazy person. And they hired a medicine man to come over and scare him. He would stand outside at night. He'd get on, like, somehow like trick him into seeing yellow eyes, and he would like mess with them and even put like hallucinogenics and like somehow like get him to be like all fucked up. And the guy would like start going crazy and get the guy to move away. So it was just kind of like a tactic they use, just kind of like hidden, I don't know, thing that is just a tool they use to control people or just for whatever means. It's not necessarily good or bad. Maybe it started good and it can be used for bad, but it's nothing supernatural. So basically he called them, quote, assholes who dress in animal skins and drug people with peyote or shrooms to fuck with them. That's a quote. Okay.
Love it. Okay.
All right.
But so the girlfriend, though, kind of gets mad at him. He's like, stop. You're just like basically a white guy who grew up in the suburbs. You should not disrespect about the Skinwalkers. Even though you think it's bullshit, just don't go there. And he's like, that's weird. Why would she be so like anti me talking about it if it's all just normal, nothing supernatural? But apparently she had some experiences. So moving on, unfortunately, John started to get older and was starting to get feeble and was clearly dying. And one day he called Sam over and was like, Sam, I've been lying to you. And I've been lying to you about what he calls, this is the word for what they call skinwalkers. I'm going to say it and probably butcher it. It's called Yi Naladushi. That's how you say it. I don't think that's how you pronounce it, but that's the word for skinwalkers. Meh.
I say it all the time when I'm mad at somebody.
Naladushi.
Naladushi.
It probably sounds really cool if I knew how to actually say it, but I didn't put time into it. I'm a bad person, I know. So John is like, all right. So the real deal is this. There are those versions of the medicine men. There's also another version, and it has the same story. It started when the coloners came here. This wasn't something that was going on for like 100,000 years or 10,000 years. This is more of like a recent thing in history in the sense that once the white man showed up, they really did try to scare him off. And there was two versions, the normal version and another version, the dark version, the real version. And what's it come from? So this connects also to what I was talking about giants the other day, where the Four Corners region, they would open up portals and basically interact with demons from other dimensions. It was a combination of dance, rituals, and sacrifice.
Ooh.
And they would open up these portals. And basically this is where the Skinwalker comes from. And they would form a bond with these things and basically say, hey, if you give me powers, when I die, you can inhabit my corpse. And what they would do is they would make this deal, which is classic throughout lots of different mythologies and lots of different, you can find it everywhere. The deal with the devil, the deal with the demon. You give it something, gives you something back. But this one's interesting because it's not like they don't really take your soul. They just want to take over your body when you die. And what happens is, this is the type of stuff this guy describes. I want to read this verbatim for you. So to become one, which is guarded jealously, like they will not give this information out, to really become a skinwalker, it's basically you have to lose your humanity, which involves either like murdering like a sibling or a family member and torture, like horrible, horrible shit. That's the only way to cross that line. And this is how they transform. Yeah. I'm going to read this verbatim. Basically, they can only transform to animals they kill themselves. They must skin the animal and cover themselves in the pelt, often while it is still warm and bloody. After a certain period of time, the animal's skin will be absorbed by the skinwalker. And not only will they gain the ability to transform to the animal at will, but some of the beast's features will begin to show in the skinwalker's human form. This is how many older skinwalkers, as they age, begin to gradually lose certain human features, only to be replaced with more animalistic ones. The human skin ages, even decays, while their animal skin does not, remaining in the same state it was upon absorption. This is where the stench of decay that many associate with skinwalkers comes from. It's a human being rotting. That's some dark shit. So his girlfriend actually had an experience. This is the experience she had with these things that made her be very warned her boyfriend about it. Was that she was just driving in the reservation. They call it the res, by the way, and she saw something jumping from rooftop to rooftop to rooftop that looked like a giant wolf with yellow eyes, but it wasn't like tracking her. It was clearly tracking someone else. And then she made eye contact with it, and it looked at her. She freaked out, took off, sped away, and eventually got pulled over by the Navajo police. And she told them what happened, and they were like, "Oh, that's really terrible. You got to do this, that, and the other thing. Get away from this thing. It's the real deal." So that's why her experience with it really freaked her out. So where are these portals? They're all in these the existing caves and small canyons, and you have to do all these different things to get them there. And these areas actually associate right where missing 411 disappearances happen, in the Four Corners especially. It's like kind of clustered in the same area, which is an interesting parallel that the author makes, which I would have made anyways because I would have picked up on that shit. And he's not saying that all the disappearances are missing 411, but there's something about these. So these beings are basically coming through portals from a long time ago. And even today they're out there still on the edges, and they don't really interact with society much. They don't really want to be known, which is interesting. They're just here, and they more feed on your fear, which is another classic thing you hear out through mythology. They're not just out there just murking people every day. They're just they feed on fear, and their agenda is different. They just want to exist. It seems like to be in our dimension. But after all that, I just thought that was a really interesting Reddit post that really detailed what happened. Okay, this is the last thing I want to say, is that it is very important to skinwalkers that much of the general populace know precious little about them, their culture, their practices, and most importantly, their identities, which is just why they're so hidden. And then Sam and Jess, who lived in the reservation, eventually left. They had an incident where something came to the window, they saw it, and then they had the local medicine man show up and give them certain herbs and plants and different things to help ward it off, and they eventually left kind of because of the incident. And now they both live somewhere else near Chicago, where they met the friend who's recanting the story. But I just thought that story was awesome, and I haven't heard, it just correlates with what my brother told me and also what I've heard before. And it gives a more, detailed look at what the skinwalker is. It's both. It's human and it can be supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
So when they do this ritual, which sounds horrific, where they lose their humanity and they basically have to kill another human, whether it's, as you said, their sibling or whatever, and then kill an animal, is that ritual opens up the portal for a demon to come through so they can make this deal? Is that what happens?
Yes, that's part of it. It's part of the incantations and dances and sacrifices they need to make in order to open the portal. I don't know why the missing 411 angle's in it. It's not like their family members are walking through the forest, but it seems that's to be, you have to do something really, really terrible in order to even have a chance to one of these demons interact with you. It's the same thing. It's demonic possession. It's another version of it. It's just their version of it and how it ends up manifesting in our world. It really is the same thing.
Yeah, it's like the whole, you've said this before, Melissa, that whole point of killing during a ritual is to basically harness that negative energy, the negative emotion that comes out of the fear, and I imagine that negativity is even more intensified if you were to try and kill a family member, like a loved one. That would be really fucking intense. That would be awful. But yeah, I don't know. That's I guess maybe that's how it works. It's more powerful, or you get more power that way by doing it with the negative death thing, but you also have to pay this horrible price as well at the end of it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's some dark stuff, man. Whew.
It is.
Well, yeah, it is. and it's voluntarily, like we see all these demon possessions, and it's like all of a sudden you just get caught off guard. You're in the grocery store buying milk, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I got possessed by a demon, right? But this was like, this person wanted it to happen, which is just a whole other ball of wax. But
yeah,
anyway.
I don't think you can get possessed just like, unless you're a young kid. Like, I think the movies make it seem like it can just happen to anyone, but really, I think you got to kind of ask for it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it's like a career choice. Like you got to study for this shit.
You do. You got to earn it.
Yeah, you got to earn it.
You
Yeah.
gotta earn it. All right, so can you top that darkness, Matt O'Connor?
Oh boy. Well, I tell you what, you can open a portal with darkness, or you can be like Aleister Crowley and open a portal with a whole bunch of fingering. Sex magic, baby.
Sex man.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's a little more involved in fingering.
Is there?
I don't get it.
So this goes back to 1918. And like I said at the start of the show, this was the particular ritual that Crowley got into where he kind of summoned forth this... we've all seen, I think most of us have seen that image of Crowley's illustration of like this big-headed being known as Lam, L-A-M, or Lam, however you want to say it.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like a gray, kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people have attributed it to extraterrestrial contact, but from interdimensional stuff. And we'll get to a bit more of that later. So this was known as the Alamantra. So the Amalantra workings. Okay?
Okay.
Amalantra.
I'm in.
Here we go.
I'm in.
So 1918, Crowley sets forth to attempt a ritual to summon, basically make contact with the other side, but in particular he says he wanted to summon like a guardian angel type thing, someone who could guide him, some sort of guide of some kind. So
some sexless version of himself.
yeah, his mirror version maybe, I don't know. So Crowley arrives in America just shortly after the outbreak of World War I, fleeing England on the ill-fated British ocean liner the Lusitania that, sunk not long after he landed in, I don't know if he had anything to do with it. Anyway, it's just interesting.
That's a whole government conspiracy.
So
Let's keep going.
Yep, that's a different conspiracy, yeah. So after several jaunts across the states, Crowley took up residence in New York, and in September of 1917, he shacked up with a lady by the name of Roddy Minor. She was a married woman whom Crowley describes as big, muscular, and sensual, and in possession of well-developed clairvoyant faculties. You thought I was going to say breasts, didn't you? You dirty buggers.
I was hoping.
Okay, so Roddy would serve Crowley as his Scarlet Woman. Basically, the Scarlet Woman of the Bible was the whore of Babylon, the Scarlet Woman.
Yeah.
Which comes up later. And together the two embarked on these ceremonial sex magic rituals in an attempt to open a trans-dimensional doorway for the purpose of communication with discarnate intelligences. So this was conducted of January to March in 1918, and it was known as, like I said, the Amalantra working. So what is sex magic, guys? So obviously we talked about we talked about the killing of an innocent and the drawing of blood, basically to the negative way of sort of summoning a portal or entities from the other side. Sex magic consists of, and we've brushed on this before, but I like to say sex magic. Used in magical, ritualistic, or otherwise religious and spiritual practices, the practice of sex magic is using sexual arousal or orgasm with visualization of a desired result. So the idea is like, why that song? So
hip hop.
So the idea is before one type of way doing it is before orgasm, you picture a visualization of something that you want in your life or whatever. It's used a lot in like charging symbols and other such magical things. And basically on the height of orgasm and arousal, you release this energy that sort of charges stuff, for lack of a better term.
I'm in. I don't even need science to prove that. I'm in.
Yeah, why don't you get RPG into this? Fuck cutting yourself on a parchment. Just,
Yeah.
you know,
He'd
I'm sure
be
down for
more
this.
into that, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. Okay, so the rituals. Obviously, there was a lot of, like I said, finger banging and reach arounds and all sorts of crazy shit. So during the rituals, while under the heavy influences of opium and hashish, Roddy would relate to Crowley a series of visions involving, and actually it was both of them. So I actually read through the text they'd made like a journal of their experiences, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But basically, they describe these visions involving a king, a small boy, and a wizard. The wizard went by the name of Alamantra, which is obviously, Amalantra, which is obviously the name of the workings. The king's name was Osiphon, and the boy's name was Augustus Fioncharo. Okay? So pretty specific. And it's like, as he's going through this, like I noticed the boy had like this, very realistic name. It sounded like someone who maybe existed in the past. And as he's going through these rituals, and it takes place over, several days, like a lot of, it wasn't just a day ritual. It was like weeks or whatever, many days. But he also seems to contact these other very specific people along the way. And it seems like he's basically making contact with, I don't know, the souls of dead people or something like that. I don't know. It's really quite odd. They're very specific names and what they look like.
They keep having sex, and then they keep opening this portal, and they keep just talking to new things.
Yeah. And all the while, it sounds like someone's sitting there asking questions and writing down what's happening, what they're describing. So this is the particular ritual, and like I said, which Crowley would summon the famously drawn image of Lamb, that alien-looking entity. But there's also a lot more that Crowley saw during this ritual. And like I said, they had this book about the Amalantra workings, which it was kind of this really odd. I'll link to it. I found a basic write-up of it. But it starts off as these sort of structured journal entries. And then it just kind of completely devolves into this scrolling mess of like, and then I saw this and this and this, and then questions asked, and then this is what this happens, and it's just to try and follow it is like this like crazy fucking fever dream of hallucinogenic nonsense.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I should read a bit from it actually, but I'll say he starts seeing things like. And there's so many visions that he sees during this thing. It's like way too many to mention. It would go on for 3 hours of me explaining shit. But he starts off by there's things like he's seeing himself as becoming 13 candles on a candle holder, like a candelabra sort of thing, and he becomes 13 candles. And that sort of transforms into 13 naked women. There's a lot of sexual imagery, like he sees a great floating yoni at one point, which I take as being a giant vagina
Yoni?
in the sky. Yeah.
Yoni. I never heard that word used before.
So here's a few things from the text that just stood out to me as though he seems to be very symbolic. All these things that he's seeing during the ritual, and it almost comes like as you're reading through it, it's just so crazy and all over the shop, and the visuals are just like one thing after the next. You just see it's like this, like I said, like this crazy fever dream. But he took every one of these visuals, which is why he wrote them all down, as really serious, like messages basically that they were trying to tell him something. And some of them are very symbolic. So he says stuff like, I began asking for a vision containing a message. I first heard gurgling water, then saw a dark farmhouse in among trees and green fields. The house and other things disappeared, and a dark yoni appeared just where the house had stood. So, giant floating
scary
vagina.
yoni.
Great stuff.
Yoni.
Yeah. So then he sees this king, right? So this king comes out, and then a wizard at the same time. So this king went out to one side, and a wizard linked his arm. And in the kings, as they disappeared, the wizard looked at me significantly as they left. It was a sort of a look as if one would almost wink. He was an old man with a grey beard, dressed in a long black gown. He was infinitely wise. They seemed to go into a cave at the base of a mountain on the shore of a large body of water. A spring of sparkling cool water bubbled up through a barrel near the mouth of the cave. I went into the cave and saw something mysterious with a revolver. The wizard was holding a revolver. So
He's mixing like genres there. Wow.
yeah. Wizard like guns, apparently.
I mean, it seems like it would be like Merlin, right? Doesn't it seem like Merlin? Like the
Merlin archetype.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Merlin archetype that people
Yeah,
see
very
when they
much. And he
meditate
gives
sometimes.
Yeah. So the name of this wizard, like I said, is what was the name of this freaking book? Amalantra. That was the name of the wizard. So he asked the wizard for a message. A large red A, the letter A, appeared, and an eagle came through it and flew away through the woods and over some meadows close to the ground. The eagle disappeared, and a red Indian was running like the wind. So like I said, just like these really just, crazy one thing leads into the next, into the next, into the next. And there's just like pages of this stuff. I won't read it anymore. It's just, there's a lot of stuff. I'll link to it if you want to check it out. It's interesting. Like I said, very symbolic. And one of the sort of the symbols that keeps popping up for him, and specifically when he asks the wizard for a message or some sort of guidance, the wizard specifically says, "Go find the egg," and the egg as a symbol keeps popping up to him. There's the symbol of the egg, the lotus flower, and a mountain are these things that keep popping up throughout the whole thing, and it's like this message that he needs to kind of figure out. So the egg was pretty specific, and he kind of links the egg to actually the shape of this lamb's head, like it's this really odd egg-shaped thing. He kind of links it to that as well. So it says, "Find the egg," which is crazy.
Well, I mean, couldn't it mean the cosmic egg?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Very
Right.
esoteric. But,
Yeah,
I mean,
he talks about like the Kabbalah all throughout, and each name that he comes up with throughout the whole experience is given a number, and the number links back to the Kabbalah and all sorts of stuff. Like it's a sprawling mess of notes, but interesting stuff at the same time. So at the end of this, he makes contact with this creature lamb, and he draws a picture of lamb because he said it physically appeared to him in this dimension. So it like came through from the other side. So after this, and this is kind of after talking about Greer recently and his the CE5 stuff that he's doing, this is kind of interesting that popped up. And I know we've mentioned some of this stuff before as well, but I just thought I'd reiterate some of this as well in relation to what we know that Greer's been doing with the CE5 stuff. So Crowley gifted this drawing just before he died to his heir apparent, like the guy next in line apparently to kind of take over the OTO, the Golden Dawn, sect that he was part of, the cult that he started, the religion. And it was a guy by the name of Kenneth Grant. So he would go on to claim that this image and the concept of lamb was used to make contact with an extraterrestrial entity. Rather than being a passive event, this was an act of will initiated by a human. Basically, he's saying like this is the putting the intent into this photo and wanting to make contact is basically what he's saying is a CE5. It's basically going out into a field, directing your intention to something and calling something in. So Grant penned a paper called the Lamb Statement, and it had with Crowley's portrait of Lamb being used as a yantra or a visual focus. So there's the mantra that you speak, And he also says that the word lamb, saying over and over again is like a mantra, but also the yantra, starting with a Y, is the visual repetition in your mind of what you're concentrating on, basically. So the entry may be affected by projecting consciousness through the eyes. And he has this like 6-step, basically, magic procedure that kind of is used to invoke Lamb and what he calls enter the egg. And I feel like it is this cosmic egg that you're talking about, this like this symbol of creation or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
And the procedure is very much, I mean, it's pretty crazy. There's a lot of different stuff as well, but there's a lot of different things in it that kind of relate very much to like a CE5. Like you would like sit in silence before the portrait, invoke mentally by silent repetition of the name. If response is felt to be positive, but not before, enter the egg. So this is all a visualization, and merge with that which is within and look out through the entity's eyes on what appears now to be a votary of an alien world.
Wow.
Then it says, seal the egg after you enter the egg and close the eyes of Lamb and await for developments. At first sign of stress or fatigue, return to the mundane consciousness by opening the eyes and by oozing out of the egg in a form determined by the experiences within. So pretty like crazy esoteric stuff, right? And then the final one is perform astrally the banishing ritual of the pentagram of Earth. Is that like the pentacle, that symbol? I guess that's what it is, right?
Pentagram.
It's protection.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the 8 spaces and record all experiences in detail, paying particular attention to lunar phases, celestial and applicable terrestrial, any physiological phenomena accompanied by the experience. So he's basically saying you can use this visualization and the word Lam to basically open your own portal. Try your own CE5, but with interdimensional beings, basically.
Wow,
Same kind
that's
of
really
thing.
cool.
I guess.
Yeah, so just a final note on this that kind of really gets into some interesting stuff. And I believe we have talked about this before. But in 1946, the rocket scientist Jack Parsons, with the aid of L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, performed the Babylon working. Remember we talked about the Scarlet Woman? This is the Babylon working. It was a continuation of the Alamantra working. This resulted, according to Thelemites, Thelema was the religion that Crowley started, so Thelemites, in yet another interdimensional portal opening, or maybe even a widening of the gateway first discovered by Crowley. So basically they're saying Crowley opened something, and then Jack Parsons, in his Babylon working, spread it a little wider, that big yoni in the sky.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yay! That wasn't a joke I was leading up to. That just popped in there. Anyway, so with the Babylon working, Parsons wasn't trying to contact Lamb, but rather the whore of Babylon herself, which would help him summon a moon child, which was basically an interdimensional being manifest in this world. And then they say in this document I was reading, apparently someone forgot to close the door behind them. According to Kenneth Grant, this was Crowley's heir apparent. The Babylon workings began just prior to a wave of unexplained aerial phenomenon, now recorded as the Great Flying Saucer Flap. Parsons opened a door and something flew in. So this was basically around 1947. A bunch of stuff happened in 1947. Roswell, all that stuff.
Nah, they just happened to do that stuff when they started testing nuclear bombs in like New Mexico and stuff. Just like that's an interesting correlation, though.
Well,
Right.
Jack Parsons was the one of the first guys to create the rocket. He's that's what they named JPL after at NASA. So his knowledge
Propulsion
of,
Labs,
Jet Propulsion Lab.
Jack
his
Parsons Lab.
knowledge of what he gathered, he was a smart guy, but what he gathered by doing all these rituals and stuff is part of this. Like his story is fascinating.
Wow, I
Yeah.
didn't know anything about him. I never heard about him before.
Yep, interesting guy for sure.
All right,
For
Yeah.
sure.
Anyway,
Well-
that's all I got, guys.
that's awesome, man.
Careful-
That was really cool.
Careful when you're opening portals, because it could be that part of yourself that you don't want to see. Or maybe it's a really nice part of yourself. But either way, be careful. You open up portals and you're practicing your rituals because you never know what's on the other side. See you next time.
Goodbye.